cloud security is a massive topic. You can't operate in cloud without coming across the security issue. So I thought it'd be interesting just to share some of the key things that we hear from the market, mainly the enterprise market, though not exclusively. And I've got 8 minutes to do this, all right? So wish me luck. So the first thing is that. So the first thing you worry. What's up? So the question is, what do companies worry about when they think about cloud and cloud security? The first thing they worry about is the physical security, the integrity of their data. As one CISO said to me, I want to make sure that nobody nicks it, nobody loses it, and nobody corrupts it. I think actually the cloud providers have done a pretty good job in solving most of these concerns, to the point now where I think it's generally accepted, apart from the really, really big enterprises, that you can get better cloud and cheaper cloud security you can get better and cheaper security using the cloud than you can if you did it on-prem. Why? Because the vendor community has the scale, has the expertise, has the focus, and so on. So I think there's a general perception across the market that cloud, from a technical security point of view, is a viable solution. I think that's a very clear trend, and we see that in terms of adoption of cloud-enabled security services and so. I think the vendor community has done a reasonable job at that. The second thing, though, that companies worry about is this idea of my data and my service, my process continuity and availability. It's not really a security issue, it's more of a kind of service availability. And again, a CIO put it this way to me. He said, what happens when my cloud service provider goes bust? What's my plan? Do I have an escrow capability? Is my data backed up somewhere? Where actually is my data? Who owns the physical servers that my data resides on? Because it may not be the cloud service provider. It may be coloed, or the servers may be leased, and all these kind of things. And so companies really worry about this kind of stuff, and it's not something we talk about very much in the industry. And I think actually the vendor community could do a lot more in this area in terms of reassuring the enterprise clients about what would happen in those circumstances. So spending some time walking them through a contract that would provide for those kind of eventualities, because companies really worry about that, and I think we do a very bad job of articulating that. So that's the second thing that companies worry about in terms of security and cloud. The third one, though, and this is the beezer, isn't it, is to do with compliance and regulation. This is the thing that everybody gets worked up about. And the way I like to think about it, and this is a kind of distillation of many, many conversations, is 3 Ps. So there are 3 Ps that you need to think about. And they're all as important as each other. So the first P is the obvious one, privacy. Privacy law in particular, and it wouldn't be a Duncan bound presentation if I didn't mention GDPR. So GDPR. GDPR is one of the primary drivers for the whole security market, not just the cloud segment of it. So the only number I'm going to share with you today is $1.8 billion, and that's the size of the security opportunity related to GDPR by 2019. It's almost a third of the security software market driven by GDPR. Does everyone not know what GDPR is? The General Data Protection Regulations, the new data protection regulation that's coming in, it's been agreed, the text is agreed, it needs to go through adoption, and then it gets implemented 2 years after. And it's a game changer. So if you want to know why, come talk to me afterwards. But it changes the game for organizations. I have another separate GDPR presentation. I didn't want to do that today. I guess the point here is that you must have a strategy for maximizing this opportunity from GDPR. If you don't have one, you don't know what GDPR is, you need to do a lot of research and get in there quickly. There's a narrow window of opportunities, a 2-year window, So get moving on that. So that's the first P. The second P is perception. The perception that a company has about your ability to help them in security, particularly with things like data sovereignty, data residency, is much more important than the letter of the law. So lots of companies are going to their enterprise prospects and saying, we are compliant with data protection law because we've signed up to Privacy Shield or Safe Harbor, as it was. And you know what? It doesn't matter. They don't care. What they care about is their perception of your ability to protect their data. And they have a pretty good reason for suspecting this. The whole NSA Edward Snowden thing showed that companies can't guarantee the security once it's left the national shores, and sometimes not even then either. So there is this suspicion that my data isn't safe if it's in the cloud. I don't quite know where it is. And so again, companies need to worry about this, and you must be sensitive to this. You can't go to market and say, we are compliant, because frankly, that's not enough. You need to be sensitive to their perceptions and work through them, through those perceptions with companies. And a lot of vendors in the cloud space are getting hung up on this. They say, well, we're compliant. Why can't we sell this stuff? And so it doesn't matter. You've got to address the perception as well as the actual letter of the law. So that's the second P. The third, how am I doing for time? Brilliant. So the third P, and this is possibly the most interesting one, is paranoia, which is a kind of an unkind word, but it refers to the fact that irrespective of the letter of the law, and irrespective of whether companies' perceptions are right or wrong about law and the integrity of data, some people just don't trust the cloud. And again, they have a good reason for that. And a lot of companies, a lot of vendor companies have pitched up and say, we can address all these issues because we have a data center in Europe. And my message to you today is that's not enough. Just because you have a data center in Europe, either your own data center or code or hosted on AWS, that is insufficient for companies these days. And there's a very interesting case, and I would like to see that Microsoft is here, because there's a very interesting case that Microsoft is taking its own government to court, essentially, over this Irish email data center issue. And again, if you don't know about that, then come and talk to me afterwards, I'll give you the lowdown. But basically, if Microsoft doesn't win that case, then it allows any federal government, a US federal government, to reach into any data center anywhere in the world and pluck out the data. So the fact that you have a European data center is irrelevant if that case goes the way that it may well do. So what are the strategies around that? Well, actually, Microsoft has got its own strategy. I'll come to that in a minute. But I think there are three things that you might want to look at. One is ISO 27018, which is a code of practice for managing personal data in the cloud. And we've seen some companies get registered on that. And I think that doesn't solve the problem, but I think it's a big help in addressing that issue. So look out for that. The second thing is that if your customers encrypt the data and that's hosted on your cloud, then give them the option to manage their own keys. Now, not all companies can or will or frankly should do that, because that's not a trivial thing, and God forbid that you get it wrong. But I think that's one of the solutions that I think will end up. You give the keys to your customers' data to the customers, so effectively they control all the data off what's hosted in your client. So that is a very viable option. And the third thing that is worth looking at is the thing that Microsoft's doing with T-Systems. They call it the data trustee model, which is essentially handing over the keys, physical and logical, to a third party in this case in Germany, and they say, T-Systems, you manage the physical data center and you manage the cloud infrastructure, it happens to be based on Microsoft technology, but it's a model that could be applied elsewhere. But using this partner model to get around, essentially building a sovereign data cloud, but using the scale and capability in this case, Microsoft. So that's another interesting model to look at. So am I out of time, or can I mention Privacy Shield? So Privacy Shield. So if you've been following this at all, you'll know about Safe Harbor and the demise of that, and its replacement, Privacy Shield. So not much more to say about this then. I suspect it will go the same way as Safe Harbor, and if you want my analysis of why that is, again, come and talk to me outside of the beer. But I think it'll end up back in court. Max Schrems has already said, I'll see you in Luxembourg. So I think that's the way to go.